Folks, I hope you are enjoying this brand new playlist, New Investor Series. These are folks who have been investing for less than 5 years. We want to know what people are doing right now to get started, where they're at. And today we have Andrew Freed with us. How you doing, Andrew?
I am doing fantastic. I am honored to be here, Michael.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Folks, he's recording on the last day of 2023. It's amazing that folks signed up on this holiday to share their story. So, Andrew, I appreciate you, as does the audience. Tell us, who is Andrew? Where are you at? Where are you investing? What's the portfolio look like? Let's start there.
So I think it all comes back to COVID when I had the epiphany of like, I put 10 years into doing the American dream, getting a good job, going to a good school, and doing all that good stuff. And I essentially got a six-figure job, got a condo in a nice swanky, city, and I essentially made it, right? But I really didn't, because during COVID, when, I ran out of things to procrastinate, I could only play so many video games and watch so many movies, and I came to the realization, it's like, I've been working for, 10 years doing the American dream. And what do I have to show for maybe like 6, 12 months of reserves? But at the end of the day, it's like I'd have to go crawling back to that job and I have to work there for 30 to 40 more years. And that absolutely scared me. So that kind of elicited me to really like take action. And at that point, I looked at my net worth and I realized like 80% of my net worth was this in this one bedroom condo I bought like 5 years ago. It was like 200,000 was in it. So I was like, all right, so let me like take a HELOC out of that. And I used that to start buying multifamily. I did some house hacking. I did some joint ventures. I started syndicating once I ran out of my own money. So I did kind of the plethora, but all primarily in multifamily.
All right, so let's start back at the beginning. So 2020, again, you have this kind of aha moment. Sometimes I refer to it as the light bulb. You realize that the 40-hour for 40-year for 40% was not all it's cracked up to be, aka the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
You had some self-reflection. You looked at, hey, the asset that I own, right, the condo, I think, or the house, is where most of your net worth is, and you had the whole some is good, more is better, as I like to say.
Exactly. Yeah, and I got out of the whole mindset of like saving, and I actually got into the concept of investing, because I'm not going to save my way to financial freedom, and I thought I would, and then I did the forecasting. I'm like, this is not feasible.
Oh, that's yeah. There's a lot in that. I mean, there's a lot of folks who get on. Again, I've shared my story. Same deal. I'm just a couple of decades ahead of you. It's like, even if I got there, Andrew, I wasn't going to be happy, and it would be a life missed, right? I would be disappointed. So, all right. So you have this little piggy bank called a HELOC.
Yeah.
Um, let's before we execute on the HELOC, what did you do first? Did you find an area, a type, other investors, or did you just buy the first thing you saw?
So I devoured any piece of education I could get, one rental at a time. I started listening to you, and you have fantastic insight into economical news. You're like always like 4 months ahead of everybody. That's why I love listening to you.
Thank you.
But then I started listening to Bigger Pockets, devouring all of that. And then on the Bigger Pockets, I heard Brandon Turner say, like, all you got to do is house hack 10 multifamilies in 10 years. That's
Yeah.
30 units. That's all you need. And like, it seemed feasible to be like, I could house hack a property every year. I
Yeah.
could save 30 grand every year. So that's kind of what was my plan initially going into it. And I was looking for multifamily in Boston. And I realized quick there wasn't enough supply. There was like 4 or 5
Mm,
properties on the market. Every single time I'd get priced out by cash offers, I would never win. Nobody wants to accept an FHA a lot of times when you're facing cash offers.
you're
So I
right.
had a decision to make. I had to say, okay, so I want to get multifamily. I want to stay in Massachusetts. What markets have a lot of multis, right? So there are primarily 2 markets in my area. Brockton, which is right next to my hometown. It's kind of rougher. It actually produces the highest concentration of high quality level boxers. So that can give you a little insight into it.
No comment. No comment.
Yes, yes. So then the other city was Worcester, Massachusetts, which is the second largest city in Mass.
Mm.
And it had like 40% of their housing stock on multifamily. You could throw
Oh,
a rock and almost a 50% chance is hitting a multifamily. So it's like a
interesting.
mecca for multifamily. And that's why I decided to like essentially uproot my entire life. I knew nobody out in Worcester. And I decided to house hack a property out in Worcester, a 3-family.
Awesome. So let's poke at that a little bit more. So how I don't know distance. I'm sorry. Boston to Worcester is an hour. What are we talking?
45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you're not going across state lines or anything. So okay, you uproot yourself, you know nobody there. This is amazing. Every conversation I have with a new investor, it starts with some choice and some sacrifice. Uprooting yourself, going to this location was not fun. It was it was a sacrifice. It's something you didn't have to do, but you did it because you knew that this was a way you were going to get on the property ladder with the multifamily. So tell us about that first three family.
So that first three family, I actually took $40,000 from my line of credit and combined that with an FHA loan and house
Okay.
hacked that property. So I think I bought it for around $560,000.
Okay.
2 units vacant. I lived in the third. And the mortgage on the property was $3,200, and then two of the units brought me $3,200. So just by making that one move, I completely removed my living expense.
Now, just to keep the numbers clear, that is just principal and interest, or is that PITI, taxes and insurance also?
That's pity, but it is excluding repair, maintenance, capex,
Yeah.
all of the fancy expenses, of course.
Right. So, okay. And again, you're self-managing because you're house hacking. I am curious when you house hack at three, was this just one big house chopped up, or was it like three different structures, or what are we talking?
Top to bottom.
Oh,
One,
okay.
two, three, all
Ooh.
exact mirror copy units, 4,000 square feet. Each unit's 1,333 square feet,
Oh,
exact
I
same
like it.
copy. So like when I turned one unit, I could just like copy and paste that into another unit, you know?
I like it. Okay. And you bought it, when you bought it, two were empty.
Well, one had an owner's son, and I agreed that he could stay there for two or 3 months, and he did, and he left peacefully, and I just turned his unit.
Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. All right. So again, was this a 5% down kind of deal, 3.5%? What kind of down payment are we
It,
talking?
I think it started at a 5 and then moved up to a 6 or 7%. I only ended up bringing around $40,000 to it. I got
Okay.
like a 2.375 interest rate FHA. So like I'm not getting rid of my FHA ever.
Yeah, you're like, I'm
Like
good. God,
yeah,
2.37. That's like free money.
I
That's like
know.
free. Because I mean, inflation, let's be honest, more than 2%. And
Oh
you've
yeah.
got 30-year fix. I still think it is hilarious that there were doomers and crash bros telling you that 2020 was the worst time to buy. Can I mean, seriously, folks, really? Is that what I mean, you can tell me it was hard to buy. You can tell me there's a lot of competition, but to throw up a scary chart and point at some price to income ratio that it was bad time to buy is crazy. 2.37 money for 30 years? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then I mean the craziest thing about COVID, it was like so easy to rent units. Like everybody wanted them. The vacancy was super low.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing I heard from people who like never invested on why they're scared to invest. Is like, what if you don't rent the unit? Like that was the easiest part. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe you have to wait a month to get the perfect tenant that falls into your
Yeah.
criteria, but they're out there and you're getting so many applications. It was very easy to fill all the units.
Yeah. All right. So you follow Brandon Turn in the Bigger Pockets path, house hacking away. Did you stay there a year and do it again, or where does Andrew's story go next?
So prior to leaving that property, I actually opened up a HELOC up to 100% because you can do that on your primary. So I
Okay.
normally like to do that is I like the I like the house hack and then HELOC up to 100 to be able to use that money to buy more property.
Sure.
I know that's very much against the ORAT way, but I very much use leverage to expand my portfolio. But I used that 200K. Then I took about 80K from that, and I bought my neighbor's three family right across the road. He was just
Oh,
he was knocking on all his neighbors' doors, like, anybody want to buy this? My neighbor called me, he's like, your neighbor's trying to sell his property. Like, I threw on a shirt, I ran downstairs, I,
me.
I walked the property. He told me a price. It was a fair price. I said, okay. We shook hands, and I took 80K from that line of credit, and then I took 40K from like crypto and stock, and I sold all my crypto then. And I bought an
Yep.
investment property, 4.125, 30 year on that one.
Wow. 30-year fixed. Again, a three family, kind of the same deal, copycat up all the way.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and it was all inherited tenants, and I think within like 1 or 2 months, I got the rent up to like my mortgage on that's like 2,300. I got the rent to like 4,300. So it was a
Nice.
pretty
Now,
decent
did
amount.
any of the existing tenants you inherited leave as rents went up, or they're like, nope, we're good, we'll stay?
Well, that's why listening to your show is fantastic because I use the binder strategy where I learned from
Ah,
Dion
love
to get the
Dion.
rents
Yes.
up. So a lot, 60 to 70% of my tenants right now are inherited tenants. And a
Okay.
lot of times I'll use the binder strategy, maybe get them 100, 200 below market, but that also saves me from $10,000 to $15,000 return costs, which how many years
Absolutely.
would that take to get that money back with that $200-300 delta. It would take 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, folks, if you haven't followed Dion in the binder strategy, you're missing out. It is the way to have the tenants ask for a rent increase and be happy. If you haven't checked it out, Google search it. Dion has a page, it might be binderstrategy.com or it's Dion Talk. I forget what it is. I should write it down. Dion, I'm sorry. I forget. Put the link in a comment below. I'll pin it. All right. So you're up to 6 units now in the story. It sounds like the next step's a house hack again.
The next step was actually a syndication as a limited partner.
Let's talk about that. All right. So you know my heartburn with syndications, done at the wrong time with bridge debt, blah, blah, blah. But
totally.
Let's hear this story.
Happy to tell the story. So my HELOC, I was borrowing at 3%. And on this syndication, I get a 15% annualized return. So I'm like, for me, it was a no-brainer to take money at 3%, moving into this bucket of money at 15%. And
I think a lot of people had that idea.
But thankfully, it worked out in my favor. And I did that with the syndication. I took $65,000 for my line of credit. A year later, and it was a local syndication. I knew the building. I actually walked in and acted like a renter to kind of see their business plan. And I 100% agree with everything they were stating in their business plan.
So there's a little nugget. If you are going to invest in a syndication, go look at the asset. I mean, how many people didn't do that and they believe the spreadsheet? Not good. Not good. But keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, so the syndication, we bought, I think the rents were $1,000 and market was like 1,700, only cosmetic upgrades. It was very easy, and it was a beautiful asset in this city called Lowell, Mass, which is 45 minutes away from me. So it was a really good deal. So I threw 65 grand into it. A year later, it sold for an 89% return.
So how big was the property? How many units?
132 units in Lowell, Mass.
Yeah. So again, I got to be really clear. I think syndications are a wonderful way to invest. I do think they got out of control. I think everybody who worked at a tech company or finance wanted to be a syndicator. I think a lot of folks were financial engineers and not operators. And without question, there are going to be hundreds of millions of dollars lost in LP capital. But if you get into a situation where you know the asset, you know the syndicator, and you can get into a true value add, 1,000 and 1,600 cosmetic rehab, that's the big thing about me is everybody thought everything would win. And that's just not how real estate works. Real estate's hard. It's always hard. I get so nervous when some idiot comes on and says, this is the next great way to get rich. I'm like, you're the one getting rich, not everybody else. So that's been my heartburn because I think there were too many shysters just stealing people's money, in my opinion. But congratulations, 89% a year, 65 grand becomes 120 or something. So that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I 100% agree with what you're saying because my next syndication, I bought off bridge debt, and it's not looking that good right now. I split that with my brother, 25K each, so it was probably my smallest real estate investment. But yeah, so that was actually my next deal. Is I went into another syndication as an LP. I'm like, I like this thing.
89%, 12 months, sign me up.
Yeah. So, but at that point, I'm pretty much out of my HELOC. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I HELOC'd my second house.
Let me ask you a question about that syndication.
Sure.
Just based on a wild ass guess, did you do the same thing? Did you walk the property? Did you do this? Was it still local? Was it somewhere else? What was the story?
It was not. It was in Phoenix, Arizona. I did.
That's not Pittsburgh.
Yep. And I gave my money to a capital raiser and not the actual operator.
See, right? Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
Totally. So mistake on my bad. It might end up good. I mean, it's not. They still have a decent amount of money in the bank, but it definitely. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have done it for sure.
Have you got a capital? Have distributions stopped, and B, have you got a capital call yet?
Distribution have stopped. We have not got a capital call.
Thankfully,
they have like 800K in the bank right now, so they might be able to ride it out. That's what I'm hoping at least.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So where do we go next? I'm sorry, I interrupted your flow.
No worries. So I was completely out of my HELOC at that point. So I opened up a second HELOC on my first house hack for $75,000.
Yep.
And
Okay.
and I used that money to split a 3-family with my buddy in Worcester as well. So all
Okay.
my units are in Worcester besides that original condo that I threw a renter in that's in Boston. Um, so I'll think of what am I up to? About 9 units at that point. And then I also became an investor focused agent. So while doing all this investing, I got my expenses down to like $3,000 a month. I'm still making my 6-figure job and working at home. I became an investor focused agent, and all the money I'm getting from rental income is just buying more rental property, right? So
I
that's
want to
kind
I
of
want to hit one thing really important because this is important to me having listened to my channel. You got your expenses down to 3,000 a month. Where were they before you got serious, you think?
I think 80% of my money I received was just towards like I probably saved about 20%.
Before you got serious.
Correct.
So now you're down to 3K, you're probably flipped that. You're probably saving 70% and spending the 30%. Is that fair?
Probably more. Yeah. I was
You're
saving
a
significant
big,
amount for
yeah.
sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Because that's important, right? I really do believe, step one after you have the foundation is creating discretionary income. You can cut expenses or increase income or do both. And that's where really this flywheel gets started, which is where you're at. So also tell me about becoming an investor friendly agent. So you got licensed, you created a target market. I wish more agents would do that, basically become investor focused versus open house focused. So
Mhm.
tell me about being an investor friendly agent. That sounds like a good idea.
So there was a couple different reasons on why I did this. First of all, my mentor had a brokerage, and my mentor owned hundreds of units, and I wanted to get where he was at. So I wanted to provide value to him in one form or another. And
There you
the
go.
way I provided value was I helped him start a meetup in Worcester, and I brought him value in the form of commissions, right? And then
Of
I can
course.
essentially call him anytime and ask him any question I want, right?
Genius.
So
Genius.
that's exactly what I ended up doing. And yeah, I essentially became kind of the Worcester multifamily guy.
Mm.
Then now I have a team of agents under me in Worcester, about 3 different agents under me. We're all investor focused. We only work with multifamily buyers. So
That is awesome. I'm gonna ask: do you still have the W-2? You gonna keep it much longer? I mean, it seems like you're rocking and rolling.
So I think you mentioned this before. Your W-2 is an asset, right? Like I
Mhm.
am way more loanable because I
Yes.
have the W-2, right? If I want to keep these house hacks going, the only way I'm going to be able to
Yeah.
do that is keep my
Absolutely.
W-2.
I
So the
agree.
plan is like 2, 3 more years of my W-2, get a couple more house hacks under my belt. And then kind of when my cash flow 2, 3 X's my expenses, because as you know, cash flow is so unpredictable.
Agreed.
Then I'll feel more comfortable kind of leaving my W-2.
I love it. Yeah, don't be in a rush. I would tell most people work an extra year or two. It's not only getting your expenses, but 2 or 3x, shoot 5x your monthly expenses. Then 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 it gets good. But yeah, I I really do believe, Andrew, too many people rush to get out of the W-2.
Hmm.
And you just compound risk. You slow down. It might feel good in the moment, but doesn't feel good long term. Uh, and again, I would tell people don't look at the W-2 as a prison, kind of how we started this conversation. Look at it as an asset. And then just, count. I don't know if I don't know if anybody did this, but I did this every year that I can remember. When it got to the end of the school year, I was counting down days to the end of the school year because I wanted summer vacation, right?
Hmm.
Um, So just look at your job as like, hey, I'm one day closer to freedom. I'm one day closer to freedom. Don't get excited to go to work because when you come home, you're one day closer. Um, I love all of that. So,
I
what
mean,
kind of
and
recommendations? Go ahead.
I was
Go ahead.
going to say, to your point, when you're more excited about going to work, you end up getting more promotions, making more
Yeah,
money, right? It's like
stocking.
when my only thing was my W-2, and that's all I was invested in, like moving up. Like I didn't get what I wanted, but when I actually had a side hustle, I had a purpose, I had dreams. Like, and my job was like kind of just a job. Like, I went through it with a better mood. Like,
Yeah.
I started making more money, getting more promotions. People started giving me more freedom. So it's counterintuitive than what you think. You
No,
know.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Once you look at your job as an asset, it it becomes a little bit more enjoyable, if not a lot more
Yes,
enjoyable. Because again,
totally.
it is feeding your dreams. as opposed to stealing your dreams.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that new investor. They're likely going to see this on January 1st. In fact, this might be my first video of 2024. What do you recommend somebody just getting started? Maybe they're on Bigger Pockets. Maybe they found Brandon Turner. It's hard now, right? High prices, high rates. What are you telling somebody if they're just getting started?
So I'm a big believer that entrepreneurship is the journey of self-discovery, and it's all about mindset, right?
Mhm.
So I've been reading a fantastic book recently, Limitless by
Oh, yes.
Quick. But what's his name? Quick, his last name. I
Jim
forget what it is.
Quick, something like
Jim
that.
Quick. Thank you, Jim Quick. Yes. In their book, he talks about eliciting long-term behavioral change. And he's like, there's three things that elicit long-term behavioral change. Number one, having an epiphany, which that might be hard to do, but maybe you can do it.
Yeah,
Number two
maybe.
is changing your environment. And number three
Yes.
is taking small steps, right? So if you really want to change the life and create the life you want to live, like try to have an epiphany. It might be challenging, right? But at least do the other two. Like change your environment, surround yourself around people doing what you want to do. Maybe you want to be an incredible father. Maybe you want to own multifamily. Surround people who do that, right? And then the
Yeah.
second thing is do daily action every single day. Maybe that's 5 minutes, but it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And then 2, 3 years later, your life is unrecognizable than what it was, 3, 4 years ago, right? So
I
that's
couldn't
kind of
agree
what I
more.
recommend people doing is kind of doing these actions to elicit long-term behavioral change.
Oh, I love that. Again, there are lots of epiphanies. You had one when you realized the 40/40 life wasn't for you. Another one might be inflation's a feature, not a bug. There's just lots of things out there, and I call them light bulb moments. You can call them an epiphany. I just love when I'm able to turn on that light bulb and just see somebody's eyes go, I see it. It was dark before. It's pretty amazing. And of course, I believe focus and daily discipline. I probably repeat that more than anything else. I generically call that doing the work. I tell people to get around people that are doing it. In fact, I'm also getting on this kick of blocking doomers. Oh, freaking guys and gals annoy the hell out of me. They're
Mm-hmm.
stealing your future
Oh, totally.
by telling you nonsense. Um, just block. I can tell you, X or Twitter, which is something I just got on in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extremely negative platform until you start blocking doomers. And then there's a lot of great people on Twitter. There's a lot of great finance and people in housing on Twitter. You just got to block the noisy few. The
Mm-hmm.
few make a lot of noise because that's all they have to do. They're just poor living in their mom's basement and they gripe and bitch about the world. Block them and life gets better. Andrew, closing thoughts and where can people find you?
So I just want to thank you for writing one rental at a time because you elicited that light bulb moment. So thank you, Michael. You do a lot of great. So I really appreciate that. And people can find me at Investor Freed. I'm always putting out free content and kind of educating the world. So yeah,
One more time. What is the channel or page?
Investor Freed on Instagram.
Investor Freed on Instagram. Give him a follow. Matter of fact, go to Instagram right now, look him up, and tell him you saw this interview on One Rental at a Time. Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.